Jason, what an honor.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
We were talking off camera, the songwriter and it's king and queen in Nashville.
Yeah.
And you're Mount Rushmore.
Oh, jeez.
Or you're close.
That's too kind. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and funny enough, shout out to Nashville because that's not everywhere. As we were saying, the love and admiration for the people who put in the hard work to be really talented at songwriting is not appreciated everywhere. Yeah. And I get that, the scene has changed and it's a culture of, more and more. But I really love Nashville for this, that you can tell there's a community. And, as you said, the word that comes up all the time, it's true. It's real. And it's real people who are not afraid to be real, and it's incredible. So I love it.
So when you make these trips, because they're frequent, right?
Yes.
And other LA, because you're based LA,
yes.
Other LA-based songwriters and producers, they make the trip to Nashville 2 or 3 days. When you come for 2 or 3 days, what is like your schedule like? What are you trying to accomplish in these 2 or 3 day trips?
Yeah, so you try. Not only do you want to obviously do a few sessions if you can, maybe day and evening if you can, you try to pack in as much as you can, but you're also trying to just connect with artists and writers, and especially the writers because they build careers, longer careers hopefully, and then you want to build connections with those people and just to let them know that you're all on the same page here. You're all trying to make the best thing you can, and you want to be next to them doing the work. And if they have the craziest idea in the world, there is no such thing. I'm able to do whatever it is that they want to do also, and I'm part of the team, and I'm a member of the community and able to do anything that they vision.
Yeah. So you guys start communicating before you come, right? So you start from zero?
Yeah, actually, usually it starts in the session, so usually you meet straight away if you haven't worked with a writer or an artist, and you have to be real quick with getting to know somebody and and not being afraid to put yourself out there. I feel like that's, the more you can show how real you are and how open you are, I think that'll open up artists in a lot of ways because, and not to speak ill of other places or anything like that, or like Los Angeles or anything, but sometimes people come in with a little bit of a preconceived notion of how they should be perceived or how the thing should be, and I always try to strip that back just to be real, because at the end of the day, we're trying to sell emotions here, really, so you try to connect with an artist by saying something silly that happened to you or, a little bit of a true story about your latest heartbreak or, or latest success or your latest whatever, you just try to relate in some kind of way like that.
You're a very, it's very easy to connect with you. I mean, I just met you today and I feel like, we're buddies. And
Exactly, yeah.
So that is obviously like a very great skill that you have.
Thanks.
Where does that come from? You grew up in New Jersey, right?
Yes, I did. Yes,
But like, does this do you come from an Italian family?
I do, yes.
Where does this like love for people come from? Because you have it.
Yeah. It's funny enough, I feel like a lot of people, artists and entertainers in general, we do this job because we don't exactly connect with the world in a certain way. Growing up, we're made fun of or the outcast or we look weird or whatever, or we don't play the sport the right way or, whatever. So we're hoping our artistry can connect with the world in the way that we can't, So once I kind of realized that about being a songwriter and producer, and even that experience of, I played a bunch of instruments and I wrote songs, but I didn't know that was really a job. So you start to find out that can be a thing. So then you start to connect with people who do that thing. And then you start to feel that connection of the human connection of other people. Yeah. So it's the love of that, really, of feeling connected by connecting with somebody who does what I do. They live the plight of the job and the life. I connect with them, and
sure.
It's someone else who can experience it, and then hopefully we make something that connects on an emotional level that can reach out to the world, and just an adage person. Yeah,
it's fun. Driven by connection.
Yeah, really, and it's not. Maybe at some point in my life and in other people's lives, it starts off at a bad place, which is like validation, right? You're hoping like, oh, just like me. But then you start to realize, no, it's not exactly about that, because it's the love of connecting with people and connecting on an emotional, side, hopefully musically as well.
Going back to those Jersey days.
Yes.
When did you because you obviously have a knack for for what sounds good.
Oh, thanks. Oh.
When do you remember knowing, hey, that Madonna song is good, Nirvana is pretty good,
Yeah.
and X band is not that good?
That's a great question. I very early on, I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and I remember The Police, and I remember, and I knew that was good. That was my favorite. And then, as the time goes on, you get Guns N' Roses and Nirvana and all this stuff, and I loved all of it, and Madonna and all this stuff. Sure. And I just noticed that I had a real problem because I loved everything, so I couldn't necessarily focus into one area, and especially at that time, it was a lot of oh no, you just do this one thing and that's it. It wasn't this broad sound of things. But I always thought it would be cool to, know about the indie scenes or the punk scenes that are underground and try to bring some of that energy to the, bigger scenes, or I did a bunch of the really heavy thrash metal and all these hardcore records and stuff like that. And, you just learn something from all that. And again, it's people, it's people connecting in different ways. And there's certain groups of people who love those things. And yeah, so I always just loved working on music, and it was just such a early thing for me that it was, I kind of knew that was all I could do immediately.
You were playing every instrument.
Yeah. I started guitar real young, and, just picked up everything else as I went. And if I, if I needed something, I'd figure out how to do it, kind of that idea.
And you've seen so many genres come and go. You've worked at it for a minute, Jason. Is there a pattern that is that hasn't changed regardless of the era we're in, of what makes a good song?
That's a good question. What makes a good song? Yeah. The thing that doesn't change is connecting with emotional nerve of some kind. Now, whether or not that's the party nerve, if that's the, club scene, or the super emotive record, that really makes, punches you in the heart, that kind of thing. Those always work, and that's my favorite, of all time is Beatles, John Lennon, so yeah, I think it was realizing that that's really where those songs really connect, because they really say something, so I think that's what a lot of people take from that, and why it's lasted so long. Those are the records that last a long time, the ones that really say something.
But all this stuff you've worked in, Jason, the reason why it's been so successful, I was just listening to it in research. It's real. And that sounds like a throwaway line, but it's not manufactured, this is overcome life. This is what you should do. No, it's you actually peel back and you kind of do it with the guts out.
Yeah, try to. Yeah, always trying to. I think it just comes from my inherent love of music. I don't know of anything else I could do, and I've been doing it for so long, and it doesn't come. I didn't start playing music because I wanted to get girls, or because I, wanted to be popular or anything like that. I started playing music just because I loved it. As soon as I saw a guitar or heard a thing, I was just in, So I think I pull a little bit of that into sessions, not to sound, pompous or anything like that, but that's truly where I started from. It wasn't for any other reason. And all that other side stuff of, the attention and the girls and all that stuff from playing shows, it almost seemed weird to me, because I was like, well, I'm just doing what I should be doing. And then you get all the weirdness that comes with that, and it makes you, it makes you question why you would be doing that, but then you see, it helped me actually realize okay, I'm not exactly an artist in that sense. I'm not going to be the guy on the cover of X magazine, but I know I can really make music. So I want to be the guy that's helping. Yeah. Make these. Yeah. Exactly.
Wow. So much to unpack there. It fascinates me how quickly the music industry changes.
Yes.
Not just the distribution models and all that, but I read recently that even the way songs are made now
You know,
Like you got to get to like the chorus really quickly, almost like at the beginning.
Yes.
And then peel it back. Like the whole thing before of intro verse is like gone, basically.
right.
He's part of like, he's part of like your success and your longevity. He's kind of just like being unafraid of change and just like throwing away what worked before.
Absolutely. Funny enough, you listen to some Beatles songs, it's the first line of the song is the chorus, so it's always kind of been that way. And the more you can push and the more you can try things and the more you can understand that you always need something that catches someone's ear. And it doesn't necessarily have to just be the hook of the song, even though I've heard the same, read the same things about, you have 9 seconds basically to get somebody's attention and then that's it, but actually if you just keep that in your mind as you're listening to what you're creating, and if you kind of feel like, oh, you know what, I'm kind of bored at this part or whatever, it helps you in the creative process. And it's not necessarily to try to just be like, oh, it has to be hook, but it's just to make an interesting part. And whether that's a chord change or whether that's an interesting lyric or an interesting production sound or a cool guitar riff or, whatever, you try to marry what fits with what thing you're doing.
We were talking a little off camera about like the struggles right now in the music industry. And, one of your older interviews, you talk about like chasing success.
Yeah.
How you were a little bit like relentless. Like you knew what you wanted to do, so you just kind of like kept at it. It was like just a persistency thing. How would you say that you was like do that today in today's world?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's the same, to be honest. You have to fake it till you make it, almost, in a way, I guess is the way to say it. It's this self-belief that you know that something is going to work. I'm sure you experienced it, right, with the podcast that you were talking to me about it. It's this self-belief that I'm gonna do something good with this. I really believe in it. And I think everybody it's peaks and valleys, and I think you go through it multiple times, and I think you don't ever necessarily feel comfortable, but that's what keeps you innovating and good and, trying to push to be different and doing different things. But yeah, I understand what you're saying now, because I feel like it's got to be very difficult right now on the come up, right? When you're trying to really come up from the bottom, it's a sea of, just noise out there. So I can understand how it'd be really difficult or to seem like it's impossible, but it's possible. Be relentless in your work, to get as possibly good as you can, write 1,000 songs, write 300 songs, whatever number you want to do it. Meet people. That's really, that connection to people within the industries that you want to be successful in is almost just as important, I don't know that it's more important, but it's just as important, and down the road, a couple of years, you'll be like, hey, I got somewhere with this. And it might not be exactly where you want to be yet, but you'll get to somewhere that you didn't think you would have been a couple of years previous, Yeah. And I don't take my own advice nearly enough. I don't go out and meet people nearly enough. So I don't.
I love like that, just that energy you have, that hunger. Like it still comes to your eyes, like you were like 19 years old, kind of proving yourself to the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key component, especially after you've been as successful as you have. Like, let's call it as it is. And that always like surprises me. Like if I was a songwriter, a singer-songwriter, and I have a great album,
right,
I always like sometimes wonder, like, after you've had that, how can you start over? And sometimes people are like, man, sometimes we don't know.
You're right.
But like when I asked that to you, like how would you answer that? Because you had hit singles for Eminem, for all sorts of people, Grammy-winning songs. Do you always like you have that confidence that you could just come up with a new one?
Yeah, I do. And it's funny enough, in business sense, I know I've gotten kind of shafted on some things and, maybe not given proper credits in some areas. And I've always said, well, that's their best song. It's not mine, because I know I can make a better one and I know I'm going to put the work in. I know I can outwork you, so I'll do the work, I know that. And it comes from my parents. They were hardworking people. And I just know that that's the way to make something of your life, is to outwork everybody, So yeah, that's just what I do. And to the detriment of others around me, I will outwork everybody, Yeah. I'm sure you understand that. Yeah.
Let me ask you about, you've answered this a million times, but for my audience, you worked on so many classics. Let me ask you about that thought there.
Yes.
How did that happen? You know,
Okay. Well, it was a beat I had. It's kind of sitting around for a little bit, and
that's
yeah,
when you have a beat like that,
yeah.
you know it's valid,
You hope so. Yeah.
but you want to give it to the right people. Is that how it works?
Yeah. You try to play it to people because you never know who the person is going to be that's going to connect with it. You know, that's a crapshoot too. You know, and I can play the coolest thing in the world to somebody that I think it's going to work for, and they have no interest in it. You know, so it's this like cat and mouse game almost in a way where you just constantly trying to create cool stuff. If you're not, you know, if that's the way that the session goes, obviously not all sessions are like, oh, hey, show me your ideas. Some people don't like that at all. They want you to pick up a guitar and do fresh and whatever and all that stuff, which I'm gladly do. But not everybody likes that. Some people love to just have, you know, show me your cool ideas. Show me some cool stuff, you know. So you just play a bunch of stuff and hopefully they connect with it. And that ended up being one of those sessions. And Dan is, the singer of Imagine Dragons, Dan is just incredible writer. I mean, probably the best I've ever seen, and again works so hard. And since I'm lucky enough to have known him from the beginning, seen him put in that work from the beginning, you know, like he didn't start off at that level. He worked his face off to get to that level and to be that good and to consistently be that good. Yeah, exactly. It was incredible, you know. And it's not to say that his first records weren't great too. I'm not trying to say that in the slightest, but it's just like you see that progression of, you know, from star to superstar. You see it, you know. So he started working on it and writing it, and it just kind of came together real quick. And yeah, and really just
Sometimes like they come quick, right?
They come quick. Yeah, a lot of times because you know. There's just a feeling and it just flows out. You get flow state, I guess, is kind of what it is. And even on the, if it's just a beat side or a music side, it kind of just flows out of you, and you hear those things that sometimes take a long time to hear in other songs or other elements where it's like, oh, I'm not paying attention to what's going on here, or blah, blah, or that lyrics wrong. Sometimes it just comes together like that, and there you go.
Do you know, or do you have a hunch?
You have a hunch. I would say the best thing is, you never know for sure, because I'm sure every writer you've had or artist you've had, they have songs on their hard drives that have died that are favorites, you know? so yeah, you have hunches, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it actually does start to materialize, as like a real #1 global hit.
Yeah.
What's the feeling like?
It's hopeful, you know, you're hopeful that everybody gets it the way that you get it. You know, that's the best way.
Right? Relief, joy, all of it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's still, you're still questioning because you don't know, because all you can do is get planes on the runway, as they like to say. You can't make them take off. You can just get them on the runway, you know. Just as easily as a song could be successful, it could never be heard again. Because you can put something out and the world doesn't react to it. And because you need that balance of, you know, artists and labels and these things, they can't force a #1 hit. They can only get it to a certain level of promotion and in front of people, but then the world has to react to it. And that's always the question mark, right? It's like, well, I think the world is going to connect to this. I hope they do. And then they do, or they don't, you know? But you can't live and die by that either, you know? So in the moment when you create it, you're like, okay, hopeful. I think we got this good one. I think Hunt thumbs up, you know, and then the next level is like, oh, the manager loves it or the label loves it, and then their thumbs up, and then, you know, the next level is, oh, well, radio really likes it, so thumbs up, you know, and then it's just kind of building on all those. But that last level of, hey, does the public like it? That's your final straw, you know?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
When you see it live at the Rose Bowl or like at Staples Center or whatever it's called now, Crypto Arena,
Right.
20,000 people, all ages, demographics, and they're like having like an emotional experience to the beats that was on your phone.
Yeah. Right.
A few years ago.
Right.
That's gotta be the best freaking feeling in the world.
It's crazy. It's still surreal too. And I think you learn to be a little bit detached, because if you're so in love with everything all the time, it can hurt too. So I have this little guarded optimism still, which again, it's probably a bad thing to have in some ways. and I don't necessarily hope people take that from this. But yeah, it's this guarded thing, and it's a bit surreal because, again, you still don't feel like you connect in some ways, but then you're seeing people truly connect with something that you did, and it's really cool. And I don't pull any ego from it or anything like that, but I definitely appreciate that. Okay, the work, I did the work and it paid off, and that's the payoff. It was great because I got funny enough, I didn't get to see on that tour for Dragons when they were doing all the stadiums and stuff. But I got my family to go to Madison Square Garden, and they sent me videos of it and stuff like that. And that was just that was the coolest thing, was like my parents, finally realizing like, oh no, you're doing something okay here,
The lessons and the driving in the New Jersey.
Right, exactly.
Thanks for coming. Let me leave you with this, man. It's been a true joy. Let me leave you with this. When you're disconnected from music, if that ever happens, it doesn't, but vacation with your wife, with your loved ones, and you're gonna, Thanksgiving, New Year's, whatever. What drives you? Like what are the things that Jayson DeZuzio is driven by on a very beautiful level besides music?
Oh, that's a great question. I have reconnected with love. Just got married this year. Really, thank you so much. And finally met my person and all that stuff. And all that stuff is true. You really, when and that was just so nice because, and I waited a long time to really, because I wanted it to be that. And so thankful that I did that, because I got that thing, I won in that respect too, which I feel so lucky about. But yeah, connection, again, it all comes back to connection for me is, and maybe it's because I still have this feel of not fully connected, so I'm always striving to connect more. So it's reading other literature, books or whatever, and trying to connect in that way and learn from people past, or reading about, John Lennon's life, or reading about somebody else's life, or, just the learning as much as I possibly can, to then hopefully pull into the art as I do it, daily, hopefully. Right. Thank you.
Approaching, and just so much, the best music is still ahead of me.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I'm thrilled that you work here on.
Share a little bit of your journey and your story with us.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You're the best.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here for the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from J-Rod Concert Media.